Hello, everyone, and long time no see. It has been about 2.5 weeks since I've been on here on a Facebook Live, so I'm happy to be back. And this is a perfect launch for the topic that I want to talk about today, and that is how to get back into your routines once your schedule has been disrupted. So travel is a real obvious one when we're traveling, and I've been traveling for the past 2 weeks, various places, some family events and some work events. So I've been away from home, and that certainly disrupts my routines for sure. And I was talking with a client about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and she was telling me that this was one of her challenges, is that she does a lot of international travel, and she has put in place these great routines that are really supporting her performance, her goals, and then when she gets back home, it kind of all falls apart. I don't know if you can relate, but I certainly can. And this can also happen even if you're staying in place, right? You can have events that happen that throw you off your schedule and all those beautiful habits and routines that you've put in place. And then when you get back to your normal schedule, it's hard to build those things back in. So I wanted to talk about that. All our goals can become a casualty of a disruption in our schedule. So I want to talk about that today. Let me just see one other thing. Oh yeah, the other thing is when this happens, when we have a disruption of some kind, whether it's travel or other events that are non-typical to our day-to-day life, we can really lose momentum and lose heart on the things that we've put in place to really support us, focusing on the things that are important to us. So I want to just take a moment to talk about a couple things you can think about and do in order to make the transition back into your routines a little bit easier. So the first thing is looking at if you are traveling, or if you are in a disrupted schedule, something different is happening. Looking at the routines that you have that do support you, and you should kind of know what they are. When your habit really gets in place, it becomes invisible to you. But perhaps at the beginning of the year, you decided to add some new things into your routines to support you, whether for goal achievement or just support your the well-being of your life. So make sure you have a list of those things, that you know what they are. When you're going to travel, think about, is there any modified way to do any of these things? Now, some people are very ambitious and they try to do all the things when they're traveling. And what I have found with the clients I've spoken to and with myself is that often that's a recipe for disaster, because the expectation is super high, and yet you're doing things that you haven't planned for, and you're not able to actually keep up with the various routines, whether it's exercise, whether it's the sleep that you're normally used to getting, all those things that you have well in place at home and maybe when you're traveling are disrupted. So think about, is there a modified way? So for example, I was traveling the last 2 weeks, and I knew I wouldn't be keeping up with my normal running routine. Now, some people are able to when they're traveling. That's great. That was not me. I knew it wasn't going to be me for this particular series of events. And so I knew it would be okay if I just did a couple stretches, kept my body in motion, but it wasn't requiring as much time and figuring out routes or things like that. So think about what simple ways can I incorporate in a traveling schedule, for example, or a disrupted schedule. What simple things can I do that kind of keep me connected to the things that support me in my performance? Okay, so that's just have a plan when you're going to do a few of the things. Not all the things, a few of the things. Then, before you leave, I recommend that you actually block out time to take care of the past when you return home. So what do I mean by that? So let's say for work, a lot of people have a ton of email, for example, they have to get through, or they have, meeting notes, meetings that they've missed, people they need to catch up with. What we tend to do is come back and expect that we're going to just go at the same pace that we were when we left, as if nothing happened, right? And that's not accurate. That's not what happened, right? You have all this email that's come in, you have bills to pay, you have all sorts of things. You may need groceries, you may need to unpack, you may need, most likely you do, you may need to do laundry. There's all sorts of things, whether work or personal. So what I like to do and recommend is that you just block out time, block out a healthy amount of time before you leave, so that you're not in that weird expectation that nothing happened and I'm just going along as per usual, right? And what happens too with, particularly around our work, is that you've been away, and so everyone is piling up on your calendar for the first minute you're in the office or available. So you want to protect that time and block it out. Block it out both for your personal things, so again, groceries, bills, unpacking, laundry, all that stuff, and also for professional things, whether it's going back and looking at your email and getting caught up, sort of dealing with the past that's happened, so that you feel prepared to walk into the future and don't feel like you've come back to a mountain of things to do that and are feeling kind of behind. So that's that, protecting that time. But don't schedule it when you get back. Schedule it before you leave. That way you can be sure that you've protected that time. The other thing is, plan before you go, again, how you will ease into your routines, depending on how many routines that you have. So this client that I was speaking with, she had really developed some great habits and had built them over time. And she was finding when she got back, they just weren't happening. So what we came up with is really have almost like a tiered plan of just doing a few of those things, or one of those things, or half of those things, whatever, when you come back. So if you're used to running every day, maybe the first day you don't run, maybe you do that stretching and plan for the second day, or you go on a shorter run or shorter exercise. So just look at those habits and how you can restart them in a ease-in way. You know, what I find is that our expectations are so high that we end up getting frustrated, and then we end up just letting go of these things that have supported us. So we don't want to do that. So you want to make it okay to just do a little bit, and maybe in a week's time, you'll be back into your normal routine. But think that through before you go. Not when you come back and are disappointed in yourself. Now, this ability to restart after travel, to restart after a disruption in your routine, is an important skill set. It's like productivity resilience, right? It's an important skill to have for accomplishing your goals, for being productive, because the restart is where it's at. I'm not gonna lie. This is about the time, mid-February. Do you remember your goals from January 1st? This is the time we start letting go. Life gets busy, things get disrupted, and we slowly let go of our commitments, our goals. And we have to let it be okay that things fall apart, and the skill is to restart. The skill is to be able to get back, whether it's the eating that you want to do, the exercise that you want to do, whether it's the writing of your book that you want to do, whether it's the networking you want to do, whatever it is that's related to your personal or professional goals, whatever habits you've started to build in, you have to know that at some point they may fall apart, and the skill is to have the fortitude to be able to just, without a lot of drama, restart, without feeling horrible or without just giving up. So that leads me to the final point about all this, which is mindset. giving yourself some grace around this perfectionistic tendency that some of my clients and as well as myself have in terms of the expectations we put on ourselves, or the disappointment we may feel when we don't meet our own expectations or don't meet our own goals. So we have to have the, humility to be able to restart simply. In the fall, I fell and I broke my arm, this beautiful arm. I broke it, and I didn't actually know I had broken it for a month, but that's a totally other story. And, it obviously affected the running I had been doing and building over the spring and summer going into the fall. I was feeling super good about my running practice, and the breaking of my arm kind of stopped a bit of that, right? I couldn't go running. I was able to get out and take a walk. And, I could just say, well, forget it. I'm not going to, it's just too hard to restart again and go through all of that because, you got to build your lungs and your legs again. But that is the skill, is to know these disruptions will happen, and our strength and our capacity to play the long game and to restart again and again and again is what takes us ultimately to our goals. So my little advice for you today on this Thursday is, when things get disrupted, have a plan in place for how you'll ease back in. And don't go from 0 to 100. Just do it step by step by step. Rebuild. And what's interesting even about that running story is the rebuilding of my running practice was faster than the first time, right? If you keep doing the restart, keep not letting yourself get discouraged about things kind of falling apart, then each time it gets easier and easier to get back into that routine. So that's my thoughts for today. I hope you're all having a great Thursday. If I can help you in some way, if you have a productivity challenge, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to speak about it here and help other people as well. And I'll be back here next Tuesday. I'm restarting the Facebook Live. Talk to you later.